All right, everyone, it's time for Vermont Issues, episode 107. There was a crazy man up in Irisburg who apparently, like a week ago, poached a moose. Now, how he did it was he was actually in the back of his truck, so I guess shoots the moose, kills it. Then he tied it onto the back of his truck with a chain. You know, usually if you take an animal, now it's not in season, so it is poaching, and he's facing up to a year in prison for this. I'm not sure I'd throw somebody in prison for a year for killing one moose. But what he did next was a little bit odd, and I don't know if he's playing with a full deck because of this. He chained the moose up and literally dragged it behind the truck for 10 miles. So I imagine there was relatively little left of the moose at that point. That's not usually how one would actually take care of the animal. Usually, I would assume it'd be better to put it in the truck if it fits, or have like a flatbed or something. I know some people like strap the deer or the moose down to those. Simply dragging it along the road is a good way, especially on like the secondary roads of Vermont, to leave nothing behind but maybe a couple of grisly bones. Now, maybe he did that on purpose and he's like, haha, this is great, you know, dragging the carcass around, leaving a big bloody smear in its wake with like shreds of flesh. It's very sickness and hell-esque. I would look at that, though. I think, like, if I were the prosecutor, I'd say, okay, is this person having some sort of mental trouble that justifies almost the behavior? Like, oh, you know, they should probably get help for this. That's not normal. I don't think any normal, sane person would do that. I think in some cases, not all, so don't think I'm sympathetic to these people. In some cases where you've got very brutal animal abuse, it's a case mostly of mental illness. Like there was a woman, I think about a week ago, who was charged. She had like 50, 60 dead cats in her home. Well, that's a person who's obviously not sane. Like they're not even cleaning out the bodies. There's something mentally wrong with this person. I wouldn't throw them in prison. I'd throw them into a nut ward and try to figure out what the hell was wrong with them that they would do such things. Now, maybe this is a similar case. Now, I'm not 100% sure, of course, you know, if you don't know the person personally. It could be they are having a psychotic fit. It could be that he's perfectly normal and he thought, oh, well, you know, I drag this home now and eat it, and he just didn't have the experience to realize, hey, if I drag the body along the road, it's not going to be much left of it by the time I get to my house. Now, but they had been looking for the perpetrator for a week, and they caught up to him. The long arm of the law got him. Now, poaching is taken very seriously in Vermont. By the way, don't come to this state and fucking shoot an animal or kill an animal out of season. You get caught, it's a fairly big thing here. That's why our animals tend to be healthy, through very controlled culling of populations. It's like some people, they're like, well, hunting is evil. Yeah, and Connecticut, like a while back, which has, you know, somewhat similar weather to us in most parts, somewhat similar climate. They banned deer hunting. The deer population exploded and started raiding people's trash. They were getting sick, and then it collapsed, actually, because it was a sick herd. It got disease into it. We, on the other hand, cull the diseased, potentially individuals. See, when you're hunting, the ones that usually get away are the strongest. The ones that usually get hunted tend to be the weaker ones, you know, a crippled animal, a sickly animal, an older animal that can't go as fast or something. So you keep the herd continuously healthy. We do this with like trees and stuff. We selectively cut certain trees out. Keeps things growing, keeps things renewed, and it keeps things fresh and usually healthy. You know, not 100%, but a lot healthier than a place where you're not culling anything. So we take that seriously. It's very, very centrally documented by the state. This is one of the few instances in which sort of the central planning apparatus actually does something beneficial. Would be on the topic of like, you know, poaching and hunting. Now, moose are not endangered. And that's why probably, even if he was sane at the time and he was just, you know, being stupid, oh yeah, I guess I drag this home and chain it to the back of my truck and drag it across the road now, and he was just a fool and didn't know what he was doing, I don't think I'd put somebody in prison for a year for poaching a moose. The fine is up to $8,000. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead and fine him. I'd make him spend like, you know, 30 days probation, maybe give him some community service to repay the state, basically, for the loss of the animal. Beyond that, I mean, it's kind of pointless. And he's 20 years old, so he's barely an adult. It's not like somebody who should, you know, they're old enough to know better. They've been living out in these woods for 30 years or something. This is a 20-year-old kid. Maybe he was drunk. Do we know? Maybe he was drugged at the time. Maybe he was just high as balls and thought it was a good idea because he was nuts. We've got to figure that out, I think, before the state goes forward and throws somebody in prison for a year and forces the taxpayers, by the way, to pay to keep them in prison, which is stupid. Yeah, why don't we try to figure that out first and then consider just fining this individual for what essentially could be just a really, really dumb mistake. That's about all. Peace out.